Welcome back to Lenz, Comic Corner Classics, Known Classics. This is episode number 2294, Doubleshot number 2188. We have Captain America and Iron Man trade for you. First up, for Captain America, we have Captain America Epic Collection, Volume 13. Justice is Served. Yep, this is basically collecting these following comic books. We have Captain America 318, 332, and A number 8. Amazing Spider-Man Annual, Amazing Spider-Man number 278. Material from Mar Fanfare 29, 31, 32, and more. This book covers the period of, this might surprise you, from the period of November of 1986, actually more like June 1986, to basically July of 1987. Your main writer for this book is the late Mark Greenwald, with John Byrne, Dave Matias, Tom DeFalco, Peter David, Mary Jo Duffy, and Kerry Gemmell. Artwork by John Byrne, Paul Narney, Mike Harris, Mike Zeck, Terry Gemmell, and Tom Morgan. Oh boy! Justice Served is basically all about, well, the first portion of this book is about one of the most recurring storylines in the 1980s, the Scourge of the Underworld. Yes, the Scourge of the Underworld, which was Editor's way of killing off minor villains that had no use in Marvel Comics. Yeah, basically characters who didn't work out at all, who weren't popular. So they just kill off these characters with the Scourge of the Underworld. A concept Ed Brubaker briefly brought back in 2011 during his last run for Captain America. Now you might be thinking, given the fact that he's killed a lot of characters in Captain America, did he first show up in Captain America? No, he first showed up in Iron Man. Yes, seriously. So, the book actually has material from these various comic books. Like these various appearances, like from Captain America 311. Let's see, Thing 24. Basically, it's all the sporadic appearances that Scourge made prior to this book. They show like, yeah, he's gonna be for quite a while, and this goes for a whole freaking year. And then we have a more favorite issue, which is a John Byrne issue, which features the Hulk. For reasons. You think a Hulk book in Captain America? Yeah, even I thought this was kind of weird. But my guess is because it kind of has something to do with Scourge in the World stuff. So, yeah, that's probably the reason why they included it here. Now, 318, we have two deaths in here. The characters in the cover, Blue Streak, and a character by the name of Firebrand. Actually, that happens next issue. It's also death of Death Adler. Yes, of the Serpent Society. Yep, that's who dies in this very issue. Because 318, 321 is basically the Scourge, basically continuing the Scourge saga. Basically, we're leading a particular point. Now, 319. Oh boy, this issue in particular. This issue is known for two things. Number one is the first appearance of the bar with no name. What is the bar? Anybody might ask? It's a supervillain's bar that the entrance is hidden. And apparently superheroes are not allowed in here. And yet the Punisher snuck in one time and basically killed a bunch of people when he blew up one of the bars. And then it was doing, oh yeah, people were, their stomachs getting pumped. Yes, that happened in Punisher Origin number 4. It was a Civil War 1 item of issue. This issue in particular is not only the first appearance of the bar with no name, but this issue also has the highest body count of a comic book that I've ever read. 18 freaking characters die in this issue. 18! A character in Firebrand is not the only one. So, we all see Whiplash in here. Of course, it's still dealing with the Scourge. And it's like, who's killing these characters off? And of course, Cap at this point is dating a woman named Diamondback. This was his second recurring villain. This was his third girlfriend at this point in time. They did it for about a decade, and then they broke up. And then we identify who's in this bar. We have Stockpile Jack, Turn of the Century, Shell Shock, Cyclone, Jaguar, The Vamp, Birdman, the second one, Cheetah, Commander Kraken, Hijacker, Lita, Reaper, Hellraiser, The Grappler, The Ringer, Mindwave. Two of these characters are Spider-Man villains. Cyclone and Mirage are Spider-Man villains. Yep, they are in fact Spider-Man villains. But what about the others, you might ask? Well, let me answer the question for you. Who are these other characters? Birdman II is a Daredevil villain. Yes, a Daredevil villain. Yep. Cheetah is an enemy of the original Captain Marvel. He's a Jerry Conway character. So we have... First you have a character who's created by Mary Jo Duffy and Gene Colan. The other one was basically Commander Cracker, who is a Namor villain. Yes, a Namor villain, who is a creation of Roy Thomas. He's the Pirates. Cyclone, Spider-Man villain. Grappler. He is an enemy of She-Hulk. Yes, from the original Savage She-Hulk series. Yeah. What about the others? Hellraiser. No, not that movie. He is a creation of Stephen Grant. He's mostly put a minor Spider-Man villain, who, prior to this book, he only appeared once. March 87. This next comic was his next appearance. Hijacker. A guy who basically looks like a robot. He's a creation of Stan Lee. Yeah, and I think he's the only Stan Lee character killed off in this one. He's an Ant-Man villain. Yes, an Ant-Man villain. I'll give you a little bit of what happened to him. There's also Jaguar, who is another Daredevil. He's a creation of Tony Isabella, William Robert Brown, and Vince Cadita. Lethea, a enemy of the Thing. Yeah, because she first appeared in Marvel 2 and number 54. Also, here's a fun fact about her. She was part of a group known as the Grapplers, who from the Thing comic book. Yep. And she was brought back as, well... Let's see. There's also... at this point, she was actually one of two female villains she killed off. The other was an issue of Thing, where they killed off her. Mindwave is another Daredevil who's a creation of Marv Wolfman and William Robert Brown. Mirage, of course, is Spider-Man villain who's created by the late Lean Ween and Russ Audru, a legendary artist. Rapier is an enemy who first showed up in Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, A number 2. He's a creation of Ralph Macchio. You're thinking, really? A Ralph Macchio villain? Yes, with Jim Mooney. And prior to this book, he only made one appearance, and he appears in here, he dies. You're thinking, really? Yeah, really. Ringer, another, well, he's a character first up in the pages of Defenders. Yes, Defenders. He's a creation of Keith Giffen and David Croft. He is somewhat of a minor Spider-Man villain who was actually briefly resurrected. Yeah. I mean, prior to this book, he only made 2 appearances. Peter Parker's Spectacular 50 and Defenders 51. So yeah, 2 appearances for this guy. And that was, Ringer. Shell Shock is another Stan Lee character who is a flunky of Psycho Man. Yes. Sleep Jacket is an old Power Man villain who's a creation of lately we and George DaCosta. Turn of the Century is a Spider-Woman villain. And that's not a joke. He seriously was a Spider-Man villain. And there's also Vamp, who is the only Captain America villain killed in this whole issue. Created by Roy Thomas, Don Good, and John Butcher. Oh yeah, another female villain. Actually, one of 3. Yeah. She, of course, is still dead. Somewhat. Yeah. Now, some of these villains were brought back in the pages of Punisher. Thanks to Hood, years later by Recommender, someone got killed by him a little bit later. Some were killed in the pages of Venom, like Death Adder did too. But yeah, very high body count. How did the Scourge man basically pull this off? He disguised himself as the bartender. Yes. So he's like, okay, we identify who people are. And they proceed to take a machine gun and basically massacre all of them. Yes. 18 people in one scene. Really? Yeah. And to date, this is basically in one single swoop. This is the highest body count. And moving to Spider-Man. Yeah, this is Jay Mateus. This is Tom DeFalco's basically time. Of course, this is a three-person Tom DeFalco, Peter David, and Jill Duffy. Mostly this book is basically, it's part of the storyline. Yeah. There was a period of time where I think was Flash Thompson framed for being Hobgoblin. Yeah, he was framed for being Hobgoblin. But this is also the first appearance of new Scourge. This issue is noteworthy to put this in here because this has the death of a very important character. The original Wrath. Yes, who was the brother of Jean the Wolf. Yes, he was a recurring villain for Spider-Man when he first showed up. Yeah, he first showed up in Marvel 1048, the 51 4-parter. He showed up in Iron Man. Yes, Iron Man. Return to Martin a little bit later, and appeared in this issue where he dies. Yes, he dies in this very issue. And then we see his corpse in the very next issue. Now, we also see the debut of a new Scourge. The second Scourge, who gets killed off a little bit later. Yeah. And then, of course, basically, like... Yeah, and the reason why he killed the Rat, because apparently the original target was Flash Thompson. Yeah. Flash Thompson was the original target, but changed it because, well, Wrath was there, so kill him off. And then we kind of wrap this up by issue 320-ish, where the original one died. Oh yeah, and here's the thing about this. The person responsible for all of this in story was the Golden Age Angel. Yep. Yeah, he was one responsible for all this. Yeah, kill off all these villains in story. My guess is behind the scenes, it was probably some editor who probably just created this character. Because these villains were not working out with some people. They were not popular, so... Yeah, and after I wrap this up, oh yeah, then of course, like, oh, we masked this guy. Oh, you're the Scourge. We're going to basically take you in. Nope. Bang! He gets killed by his successor. Yeah, and he gets killed off a little bit later. Yeah. And then we have some debuts over the course of next issues. Yeah, it's like, okay, let's just basically put a halt to Scourge stuff. Let's just debut new characters. In issue 321, we have debut of Ultimatum, basically an organization known for smashing countries. Yep. Yeah, this is only here for like a couple issues. And then we have the first appearance of quite possibly one of the most unpopular characters in... Well, actually, next, before we get that, we actually have an annual. Yes, an annual where it's a Mark Greenwald writes with Mike Zeck. It's mostly put a guest appearance by Wolverine. This is annual number 8. It's a really good annual. I do appreciate it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love the annuals for Captain America. He's always had good annuals. Never come across a bad one, per se. Nope. And then after 321, 322, which is 2-part of each debut of Ultimatum. What's nothing more than a terrorist organization. Yeah, and Flag Smasher, his whole thing, he wants to destroy countries. That's his whole deal with him. And then pretty much Ramphis and it wraps up. And of course after that oh, come on, seriously. Back up, please. Thank you. Yeah, then pretty much after this 2-parter wraps up with Cap basically saving the life of Flag Smasher. We have the debut of a recurring character who would kick off a story arc that will last for 2 years. You see his character right here? That is Super Patriot. Who is Super Patriot, you might ask? John Walker, a.k.a. U.S. Agent, the jerk of the Marvel Comics Universe, and the Marvel Comics Universe's biggest dick. Yes, we also debut a group known as the Buckies, a terrorist group who follows John Walker's ideals. And This, indirectly in a way, would lead into Steve Rogers resigning as Captain America. Yeah, and basically a lot of the time we would have Cap fighting this group. He, of course, would announce their actions. And then we have, basically, in 2024, where he fights the Trapster and Whirlwind. And then we have debut of a brand new character who later popped up in an issue of particular Spider-Man, the Slug. Who is the Slug, you might ask? He is the Kingpin of Miami. He's overweight. And also the fact that he was one point replaced by a Skrull. Yeah. Here he is, the Slug. Why is he called that? Because he ate a lot. Yeah. And the Jungle guy is, he's overweight. And so he's a bad guy. Yep. Oh yeah, and Jack Monroe, who's Nomad, basically tries to kill him. And then we have basically in issue number 326, we have basically a sort of a loose issue, but by Dr. Faust's issue. Where it's all about, it's a very good haunted story issue. Came out everywhere, but it's really good. And they have basically, we have Cap fighting, of course, Sue Patriot and his group. And then we have 328 debut of Demolition Man. Well, technically not his debut. Well, it's Dennis Dempsey as Demolition Man. He basically debuted in Thing number 28, but this was the first time he became D-Man. Yeah, it's all defining a group known as the Power Broker Incorporated. Yep. And then we have them basically continue on for like a few issues. And then 330 is debut of a group known as the Night Shift, who one point show up pages of West Coast Vendors. If you're curious who the members are, when the group first started, it was basically the Shroud, Brothers Grimm, Gypsy Moth, TikTok, Digger, Wear It by Night, Needle, and Terminator. Shroud is basically a guy whose name was Maximum Cotteridge. He's basically like a minor villain per se. Yeah. Brothers Grimm were Spider-Man villains. Actually, Iron Man villains, actually. Gypsy Moth, who was like the only female member of the group. She is definitely a Spider-Man villain. She's already up as that. Yeah, and they're here for about a couple issues. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then 332, they kill off a minor terrorist named Warhead, and then, of course, basically, Steve Rogers resigns as Captain America at the end of this issue. Yep. But the book itself was awesome. I love it. I give this book a 10 out of 10 because Mark Ruffalo himself does an excellent job with this. Now, what happened next? The Storm of the Cap, which I had discussed already. Look it up. Alright, next up we have is... Well, I kind of forgot basically this book doesn't have that issue, so... Let's see if we can find it here. Here we go. Well, first jump over to Iron Man number 25. This, of course, is issue number 25 from the original volume. Yep. Where in this issue he takes in the Submariner. I had to include this one because, well, because the next book I'm going to talk about here is Marvel Masterworks Iron Man volume number 7. Yep. It's an interesting issue. Now, in the case of the rest of the issues of this book, which cover the period, mainly talk about Iron Man Masterworks volume 7. This book covers issues 26, 28, and Daredevil 73. Your writer issues are Archie Goode, who does 26, 28. Arlen Boyle. Close, please. Thank you. Who does 30, 35, 38, and Daredevil 73 with Jerry Conway does 73. Jerry Conway does 33, 38, 35, 38. Don Heck is the artist for a lot of these issues except for 2. He does 26 to 31 and 37, 33, 37. George Acosta does 32, 38, and Gene Colan does 73. This book covers the period of June 1970 to June 1971, basically 1 year worth of comic books. Again, that's interesting. Yep. So, in issue number 26, basically, it's going to a place called the Dark Dimension. It's basically where Iron Man deals with a collector. It's a very odd issue, per se. Yeah, then we have the new character, Firebrand, the character got killed off in the Captain America issue. This was his debut. Yeah, he's a Iron Man villain. Age 28, we return of my friend Edgar's least favorite villain, the Controller. Yep, he returns this very issue. Of course, Jasper Stillwell is here too. Mm-hmm. And then we have Iron Man League Revolution issue 29. In issue 30, he fights basically a samurai monster in Chinatown. Yes, seriously. This is basically a couple. Yeah, Zaga the Unthinkable and Monster Master. Yeah, they only appeared just for this one issue. Mm-hmm. There's also two characters, Garo Watabe, who appears for 3 issues. He's here for this issue, returns in 98-99. And there's also Fuji Watabe, his daughter. And she, of course, is the same thing with her, too, where she's just a minor character. And then we have 31, where we have basically Iron Man versus a group known as the Smashers. I thought the issue actually was really good. This is also the first appearance of a character named Kevin O'Brien. As was the Guardsman. Yep. He wasn't around very long. Nope, he was not. Number 32. Well, he's also fighting a guy called MK5. Well, he fights him here in 32. In 31, he fights a character called Mastermind. Yeah, basically it's like, okay, let's have him fight a bunch of one-shot characters in some of these issues. Bodhi Kodak, who last appeared in an issue of Strange Tales 112. Yeah, it's like, okay, so let's have him fight these characters. And then basically we should debut character as the Spy Master, who sadly no longer alive. He wasn't killed like not long after. He was killed like in 2014. There's also Espionage Elite. And they, of course, are here from issue 33, 34, and 35 of this book. And they're here for a crossover with Daredevil. And the whole thing with Daredevil, it deals with the Return of the Zodiac. Yep, the Return of the Zodiac. I thought that was cool. Yeah, the cartel version. Yeah, they made the return in this book. This is just after their 2 appearances in Avengers. And they appeared in this crossover. And then 36, basically, they view a character named Martin Rogers, who one point was Madame Mask, and she herself she actually appeared for a good period of time. She appeared from 36, 37, returned from 40 to 40. She appeared for quite a while, up until about issue 52. Took a break. She appeared sporadically over the years. Her most recent appearance, actually her last appearance, aside from Iron Man 8, was Age of Innocence Iron Man number 1, along with Iron Man 325. Mm-hmm. And after wrap up the storyline with the Zodiac, and in the next couple issues, they fight a group known as Wolfmen Incorporated, which is an alien group. Yes, an alien group. Takes them on for about 1 issue, and then fight another character, and that's it. I'm gonna give the book itself a 9 out of 10 because it has a slow start. It gets better as time goes on. Plus, the last issue of this book is done by Jerry Conway, which is awesome. Okay, so that's it. Particular view. I'm gonna do one more comment corner, and I'm gonna go. Okay, next view.